What is going on, Box Bros? Happy May the 4th, and welcome back to the Rage's Cantina podcast. Today on the show, Jedi Survivor is out, and it already has a ton of bugs. Temuera Morrison speaks out about how Mando stole the limelight from him in his own show, and Tomba and I go over the Season 3 finale of The Mandalorian and discuss why it was crap. That, and much, much more. It's the Rage's Cantina podcast, Episode 8, ranked the best new Star Wars podcast of all time.
Looking forward to this for a long time.
Alright, what is going on, Box Bros? Welcome back to the Rage's Cantina podcast. I am joined once again by my buddy, the Tomsters. Say hi to the Box Bros, Tomba.
What up, Box Bros? How's it going?
I'll tell you how it's going. Jedi Survivor is out, and a lot of you want me to play it seems, which is it's all well and good. And it's a pretty big game, apparently. And I don't mean just metaphorically, I mean literally. This game is huge. Over 155 gigabytes of download is required to start playing the game, which is pretty crazy. So if you have a slow download speed, guys, don't expect to be playing this game right out the gate, like as soon as you get it. On top of this, a lot of bugs are being reported for the PS5 version of the game, with the PC version being even worse. Oddly enough, though, it seems the Xbox Series X release is mostly fine. Now, you can probably guess what EA's answer is to this. Instead of a day one patch, they're threatening weeks worth of updates in order to fix all this. And this is coming after the game was delayed for 6 weeks. Yeah, what good did that do? Can you imagine how bad the game must have been before this 6-week delay? It must have been nigh unplayable. And to top it all off, the accessibility options promised are MIA. The open world areas, especially those with water, are giving the game major trouble. Linear sections are holding up pretty well, but it looks like Respawn had some serious difficulties implementing open world features. Maybe they should have just stuck to the beaten path like in Fallen Order. I don't know. As for the Xbox version, it seems to have dodged most of the bullets. The PlayStation 5, on the other hand, hasn't been so lucky, and again, the PC version is even worse. I was watching my buddy 100% Star Wars trying to stream Jedi Fallen Order the other day, and he was having trouble even getting the damn thing started.
You know, I feel like they should have just properly tested these problems beforehand. Because they say that they test these games, right? But I don't feel like they test them properly. They need to test them on every platform with multiple different like PC players, for example. Not everyone has a top of the line PC, so they should be testing it on multiple different PC builds to ensure that it can work on all like platforms. And if it doesn't work, then they need to address those problems before it releases. And what's worse is, I hear that they're not going to be releasing a big patch, but it's going to be like loads of small patches.
That's what I'm saying. They say it's going to take weeks, like small patches over the course of several weeks, as opposed to one big like day one patch or something like that.
So who knows when you're going to be able to play this comfortably on PC. I was watching a streamer, I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, and he was trying to play it, and he couldn't even get it to open because it kept on crashing when he was trying to open it, for example. And he was scared to play it because he thought whatever progress he makes, it's going to crash. And, you know, that's just not something you want when you are first playing a game. You know, it just takes you out of the immersion, and it just sucks the enjoyment out of it.
It's really unfortunate, and though it makes me kind of glad that I'm not one of the people that's hopping on the game immediately and trying to play it right out the gate, because again, I'd be buying it for PC, and from these reports, it seems like the PC version is the buggiest version right now. So, and again, who knows how long it'll be before it's fully fixed. I'm sure it's not as bad as like Cyberpunk or anything, but again, it's just like they hyped up this game so much, and then there's already like, you know, technical issues with it right off
I mean,
the bat, so.
they already delayed it. You would think that they were delaying it to fix these problems And to hear that it's probably going to be another month or two before you can comfortably play this is going to be a bit disheartening for PC players, you know?
Real quick, I want to talk about the poll. The recent poll. Tomba, if you could please bring up the poll on my channel. So, looks like Tomba hasn't voted yet. You know, what do you know? No big surprise there. But Tomba, if you could, if you could vote, and we will see the results of the poll, everybody. This is going to decide whether or not I play Jedi Survivor eventually for Star Wars Wednesdays.
I want to hit yes, but I don't want to force you into it right now with how it is currently.
Tomba, I think either way, no matter what you pick, the option's going to be the same.
I think it's a yes, but when it's fixed. Don't rush into it. Like, as a viewer of the stream, I don't want to watch you, like, playing a buggy mess. I would rather it was ready.
Yes, I agree. And there it is, an overwhelming 85% to 15. A lot of you, 96 votes, a lot of you want me to play Jedi Survivor. So eventually I will play it. Now, I didn't say when, but probably within a couple months. Like, I'll give them time to fix up the bugs and shit. And it might not be the next game, because right now we're playing Obi-Wan. But after Obi-Wan, we might play something else, and then after that game, I'll probably play Jedi Survivor, depending. But I will play it eventually for sure because of this poll. So thanks for voting, Box Bros. I'll make an official announcement about it too. So there you go. We will be playing good old Jedi Survivor eventually. I really want to see that whole thing with the droidicas and on board the Lucre Hulk and that whole part. Yeah, all that stuff. Like, I do want to see about that. So that alone is enough for me to play it, I suppose. You know.
So
besides the Box Bros voting, of course. So Temuera Morrison has spoken out in a recent interview about his feelings on Mando stealing the limelight in his own show. We have a few quotes here, and let me preference them by saying I don't think he said any of this with ill will or anger, but at the same time, you know, if he's willing to bring this up in an interview, imagine what he must be saying behind closed doors, right? So he goes on to say, "While that Mando guy stole a few chapters of my book, it was painful watching him turn up with some black new lethal sword, and the way he turned up in my Book of Boba, he just destroyed everybody. I'm sure this guy is ruining my show, but I couldn't say anything. I'm not the writer, so I have to bear it, I guess." He then shared that he believed Disney was dealing with some cutbacks on Star Wars content, which is why certain shows like the Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan might not have a second season in development. Another quote from him here. "I think there's a few changes going on. We also come under the big umbrella known as Disney now too. So it's one of the last few conversations we had in LA. The conversation started like, oh look, we're having a few changes, we're having a few cutbacks. And when you hear that at the other end of the line, it's no good trying to negotiate any more money, that's for sure. So we'll see what happens." And finally, he revealed some shocking info about him supposedly having a role in Mando Season 3. That never happened. "I was supposed to be in The Mandalorian Season 3, but nobody rang me. I was waiting for the phone call in New Zealand, waiting and wanting to give up." Pretty crazy stuff coming from Temuera. What are your thoughts, Tomba?
You know, I can see why he would be annoyed. Because it's called the Book of Boba Fett, not the Book of, you know, Boba Fett and the Mando.
Yeah. Well.
You would be annoyed too if someone was stealing your limelight. And I can see where he's coming from, because if Mandalorian had a scene in his show, then the least they could have done would be to give Boba Fett an appearance in Season 3. But as we all know, Season 3 was basically Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian.
Yeah, and again, they admitted that they don't even know who the Mandalorian is anymore. So, which is
very bad. Like, this is giving me the same feeling I had with episodes 7, 8, and 9. Like, no one knew what the hell was going on or what they were doing there, and it was just a hot mess. Big.
You know what it is, man? You know what it is? It's too many cooks in the kitchen. I think that's the problem. There's too many people all giving their opinions on what they want, with the show, with each show, and it's all over the place, a lot of this. And what a lot of people are disgruntled about with the Book of Boba Fett is that, like, Boba Fett wasn't portrayed as, like, the Boba Fett we knew from the original trilogy. Like, the silent, like, badass bounty hunter, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, while it's interesting to dig into his character a bit and have him go through a bit of a character development and all, I think a lot of people were really wanting to see that Boba Fett, like the old school, badass, like, silent Boba Fett, who never really takes off his helmet, too. Like, you know, he had his helmet off almost all the time in the show, like, the whole time.
Yeah, less is more, a man of few words, you know?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Robocop, like, you know, dead or alive, you're coming with me. But
yeah,
you know,
it could have been like a mafia show. It could have been like a mafia show, but with Boba Fett, like, as the crime lord, you know? And it kind of was that, but at the same time, he was like a nice Boba Fett who was doing, like, the right thing. And it's like, okay, I understand that that's, like, okay for some people, but again, it's from what I'm seeing, it seems like there's a lot of people that are dissatisfied with the Book of Boba Fett overall, and then Mando coming in the middle was just, I mean, it was kind of out of place. Like, Grogu then coming back during that book, like, if you didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett and you just watched Mandalorian, you would be confused as to why Grogu is, like, suddenly back for season 3. Like, you wouldn't get it, and it's like, oh, well, you have to watch the Book of Boba Fett. Like, I think that's just, like, silly.
Just,
you know, like
Disney trying to pump out more views, you know, like merchandise, gotta sell.
Well, they're trying to be like Marvel and connecting, like, everything to the point where it's like you gotta watch everything in order to get the full story, which it's like some people aren't gonna do that, and then they're just gonna get confused, and yeah, I don't know. But and it seems like Temuera himself is pretty disgruntled, at least a bit. Again, I think in the interview he said this in, like, you know, a lighthearted way, like he wasn't, like, angry or anything, but I think deep down, you know, he doesn't like the he doesn't like the choices that Disney has been making, especially with his show. And I think a lot of the actors feel that way, unfortunately.
He could be under an NDA, you know. He could also want to preserve his paycheck. So he's definitely voicing his anger over it, but you can't say too much because, you know, Mickey Mouse will find him.
Oh boy, he's just waiting in the corner with a fucking pickaxe. He's like, you better watch what you say tomorrow. We got a problem. It's like that episode of South Park.
No problem, Mr. Mickey Mouse.
Now, do we have a problem? No, sir. No, Mr. Mouse. No, Mr. Mouse. Oh, that's good, because I thought we had a problem for a minute there, huh?
All right, moving on. So there are some rumors going around, been spreading from many different sources recently that Jon Favreau may be on his way out pretty soon. Some pretty crazy stuff. Now, I won't be going into too much detail, if not at all, because most of this is pretty much just unsubstantiated rumors, but I want to go over some interesting symbolism I discovered in Mando Season 3 that relates to Jon. Now, some spoilers ahead for the end of Mando Season 3. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely click off now, because there will be some spoilers, but at the end of Mando Season 3, this isn't in the last episode, but the episode before it, there was a Mandalorian, Vizsla. You remember Vizsla, right, Tomba?
Yep, I remember
the
Vizsla.
big badass Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. Now, he was voiced and pretty much created by Jon. Like, that was almost like Jon's stand-in for the show. Like Vizsla was...
I didn't know he was voiced by Jon. That's news to me.
So... He was pretty much regarded as, like, Jon's, like, insert character for Mandalorian. And what happens? Spoilers ahead. He dies. Vizsla gets wrecked. Not only does he get wrecked, but he gets wrecked by the 3 Red Guard enemies that are taken right out of The Last Jedi, dude. Think about it. It's literal symbolism for the sequel stuff just destroying whatever Jon and Dave are trying to do.
Yeah, conspiracy? I think not. Cue the X-Files music.
But for real, it may sound like, oh, come on, Rage, that's just goofy, but isn't it like a little too perfect? It's like not only does his character die, but he gets killed by the literal, I don't know what they're called, but they're the Red Guard enemies that Rey and Kylo fight in The Last Jedi. It's the same exact types of guys. Same dudes. Yeah. And so he gets killed, and now there are rumors spreading around that Jon's gonna be pretty much fired from Disney. Or he's walking off, or something. It's not sounding good. I don't know if it's true or not. I have no clue, but there are rumors going around. So it's again, we'll have to wait and see what happens, but I do think it's really interesting that happened at the end of Mando Season 3. Me and Tomba will be talking about in length the end of Mando Season 3 and our thoughts on the season as a whole and all that in a little bit. But before that, before we move to the next topic, what do you think, Tomba? Any thoughts about Jon? Do you think this is like real?
I hope it's not true. I hope Dave's not involved. If Dave is involved, then my last piece of hope in Disney Star Wars is gone. He's gone to the dark side. And
there are also rumors that Dave may be defecting to Kathleen Kennedy's camp. And yeah, they made some kind of deal so that the Ahsoka show could happen. Anyway, we'll have to wait and see what happens with Jon. Hopefully it's not true, and hopefully the other rumors about Dave are not true. But at this point, I just wish George would come back. It's like that's what we all really want.
We need that biblically accurate George Lucas back in the seat.
And what we need back are some classic characters like Han Solo, Leia. I know that's going to be hard to do, but it'd be great. I mean, they could do it in in a CGI show or something like that. And definitely Luke Skywalker. A lot of people would like to see him come back because it seems like they have cobwebbed Luke, doesn't it? Doesn't it seem like he's just not really around anymore?
Yeah, it's like he had his moment in the sun, and then they put him out to pasture, it seems.
So a lot of people have been realizing this, that Luke Skywalker is nowhere to be seen in Star Wars. Maybe a few cameos here and there. End of Mando Season 2 was a big one. He appeared a little bit in Book of Boba Fett. But for the most part, Luke has been completely absent from all Star Wars media. Now, it comes as no surprise to me that most of this is Kathleen Kennedy's doing, wanting instead to focus on their new characters that no one really gives a crap about, Now, all this is coming from many sources within Lucasfilm itself, but I think the proof is in the pudding, as we really haven't seen anything from Luke since, like I said, the Book of Boba Fett. Now, I think a big part of it is also because it's hard to really see Luke, or CG him in, with the deepfake and all that stuff. The deepfake technology is it's pretty expensive to pull off. At the same time, though, we have seen guys in their underwear, just at home at their own computer, doing a better job than Disney. So that's probably not an excuse. They could probably still make it work with the deepfake technology. And again, they could also do cartoons in CG, like some kind of story like that. Which they have been doing for plenty of other shows, but of course you don't see anything for Luke, for Han, for Leia. We just don't see anything from any of the original cast. We don't see him anymore, and it's kind of disheartening for a lot of people. But at any rate, it's clear that there is a clamoring among the fans to see more of Luke Skywalker. Could we eventually see a show dedicated to just Luke and rebuilding the Jedi Order? Probably not, as it seems that Disney wants to focus more on Rey and her story of rebuilding the Jedi Order in the new movie that was recently announced. The one where she's pregnant or whatever the hell. Yeah,
I just miss... Do you remember how, everyone and their grandma just knew about that scene from Empire Strikes Back where, Vader reveals that he is his father? I miss that level of, shock and, mysticism, because it's impossible, that it just can't be true. We don't have that anymore. The script is predictable. Everyone can see where it's going because it follows a pattern, a very political pattern. Again, no one likes politics in Star Wars, but there is no ignoring it. Like, they are just ruining Star Wars.
Yeah, it's lazy writing, it's the politics, it's just, there's a lot of issues, and honestly, I really think it's just a matter of the golden age is over, you know? Once in a while we get some good stuff, mediocre stuff maybe at best, but for the most part, I think Disney's handling of Star Wars overall has just been very, very lackluster, and it's really a shame. With a company that has as much money as they do, you think that they'd be able to pull it off, you know? And they kind of did it first with Rogue One. Rogue One was a great movie. It was probably the best thing they've done. Besides, like, Rogue One and Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2 were like the best thing that Disney did with Star Wars. The rest of it is like mid to shit at best. So
yeah, I remember when Rogue One. I remember everyone had like worries about Disney with Star Wars before Rogue One came out, and I was one of those people. I was worried the direction Star Wars was going to take. And then I remember seeing Rogue One and like breathing like an air of relief, like, oh, this film's actually good, and it's, you know, it feels like Star Wars, right? Mm-hmm. So then I was really hype for The Force Awakens, because I had no idea what it was going to be about, right? We all were. Yeah. I didn't know what the script was. I thought, this looks good. We're actually getting more like central Star Wars movies. This is amazing. And then it was like that hope turned to bitter ash in my mouth over the period of those 3 movies, and it just left me full of anger and hatred towards Disney. It put me on the dark side of life.
Yeah, it's really a shame, but again, we can only hope that Luke will return soon in some way or another. Speaking of Luke, though, I guess there's one way he kind of returned recently. Not really, though. Tomba and I are going to watch one of the latest or last trailers, I guess. Will this be the last trailer? I don't know.
Probably. More promotion than a trailer.
Yeah, promotion. For Jedi Survivor, which features Mark Hamill and the actor who plays Cal Kestis, Cameron Monaghan.
Remember, just feel it.
All right.
You're on Kobo. The Mogul Wampa thing is coming. You're not scared. Show me focus.
The Wampa thing.
Not playing baseball.
Right.
You will take me to the senator now.
You'll take me to the senator
No
now.
less risk.
Mark, you know I don't actually have the Force, right?
BD1 says no excuses. Hold it. You get 2 lightsabers?
Well, technically 1, but I can split them.
You never gave me 2 lightsabers.
Mark? Duck. Okay, now use your Force powers to pull that sphere.
I really don't need you to explain the Force to me.
So ridiculous. I mean, I thought that was cute.
It was a nice throwback.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be playing it eventually, Box Bros. Your votes have been heard. Eventually, we will play it. Hopefully, like I said though before, they'll fix those bugs. Anyway, so without further ado, let's get into the main big topic of the night. Mandalorian Season 3 is over, and so is my hope for Star Wars as a whole. It's I was not very satisfied with the end. There were a few things I kind of liked, but overall, compared to Seasons 1 and 2, it was pretty bad in my opinion.
I loved Season 1. I enjoyed Season 2. This is going to sound strange. My highlight of Season 2, again, this is a strange take, but it's just my personal take. I really liked the N1, like the Naboo starfighter that he got, the modified starfighter.
That was a great callback to Episode 1 that I enjoyed as well. Yeah,
I loved it. It was amazing. Season 3, it just didn't feel like The Mandalorian. It just didn't. There was too many side characters getting the big screen, you know? Like, it felt like Bo-Katan's show. It felt like, you know how Star Wars Boba Fett was about Boba Fett, and then The Mandalorian had an appearance? It felt like...
It stole the show, happened to Mando with Bo-Katan.
Yeah, it just felt like it was all about Bo-Katan. you know, and it's just like she should not have had as much of a central role. It's supposed to be about the Mandalorian, and it's supposed to be about Grogu. I get it. He is Mandalorian, and this season revolved around Mandalore and the Mandalorians, and obviously Bo-Katan is a big part of that. But she shouldn't have had such a central role, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I just wanted more Mandalorian and less of Bo-Katan. You know, I still want to explore the story of like Grogu and, you know, all of the things revolving around that. And I can only hope that they will address that in the next season. And I hope it's just them. I hope it's not all these side characters, you know. Like I hope the next season's not gonna have like 4 episodes dedicated to that curly-haired woman on Tatooine. You know, it's just stupid. Well, is it Tatooine? I don't know. Whatever that planet she's from.
It's Tatooine, yeah.
Yeah.
But at any rate, though, for me, I don't think I'm even gonna watch season 4 if they come out with one. Which they kind of reset the Mandalorian. I mean, the end was like what they were like sitting out on. It was like a happy ending. Like he was sitting on the farm, and frickin' Grogu was messing around with the frog with the Force, which, by the way, goes against everything that George himself believed in with the Force. How like a Jedi should treat the Force, like you should treat it with respect and not like mess around with life like that. Like, you know, with the Force, it's not. It kind of goes against all that. But you know, whatever. He's a little kid, I guess.
They touch on that in Attack of the Clones when Anakin's pushing the apple towards Padme.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about that in that movie, and how he's not supposed to use the Force in that way. And you know, Anakin, you know, he played around with his food and he turned to the dark side. You know, so
we can see Grogu turn to the dark side in season 4. It'd be so stupid. I don't even think Grogu should have came back at all. Like, I think he should have stayed with Luke, and then it's like we don't see anything from Grogu again until season 8 of The Mandalorian or something. Then he comes back as like a teen and helps, you know, Mando defeat some enemy. Remember, we were Grogu with the steel chair, you know, like that'd be great, dude. But instead, he came back in the Book of Boba Fett, and then for those who didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett, it was just as if, oh, Grogu's back now all of a sudden. Wait, didn't he go with Luke? Wait, it's like that's what the whole story was about. The whole story was about Mando bringing Grogu to his people, which were the Jedi, of course. And the only Jedi around really is Luke. So it was all about bringing Grogu to Luke. And then that happened in season 2, and it was amazing. Okay, the end of Mando season 2 was like the best Star Wars I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah,
it was incredible.
I agree. I would say that's where
it was like they somehow they recaptured the lightning in the bottle, and then they just dropped it and let it go again. Instantly. Yeah. Almost instantly. You know? There was so much negative shit that happened right after season 2 ended of The Mandalorian. With like that one guy making fun of Star Wars Theory for crying. Remember that? Like Theory, like, cause okay, so here's a little thing about Star Wars Theory, who's a really big, great Star Wars YouTuber. He had cancer when he was a kid. And the one thing that he said kept him strong when he was going through chemo as a child was Luke. Like, Luke was like his hero. And Luke would like give him the strength to keep going to chemo and to keep, you know, fighting. And so when he saw Luke return in such a heroic way, it emotionally moved him. And he cried on camera, like he was live, like watching it with his fans, and he cried. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, anything that can move somebody like that is a beautiful thing. And you know what? I forget the name of this guy, Tom. You got to look it up, the name of this guy that made fun of him. But he was one of the writers on The Mandalorian. I think he was a writer on The Mandalorian, but he works at Disney. He works on Disney Star Wars, and he was literally making fun of Star Wars Theory. Yeah, Pablo Hidalgo, that's him. Pablo freaking Hidalgo, dude. He made fun of Theory for crying on stream about this. He just like made fun of him. And this was like right after season 2, and this was like the first negative thing that happened. And it was like, it was so scummy, man. It was so scummy.
This is him.
And then you got somebody like, and then of course he's completely fine though. He didn't get hardly any flack for it, any flack at all for it. Then you get somebody like Gina Carano, who played Cara Dune, who says one political. It was political, but it wasn't all that like unbased what she said. But because it was a right-wing opinion, they fired her like instantly just for posting something online, and she's completely out of the Mandalorian. It messed up the story, I'm sure, because I'm pretty sure she would have played a big part in season 3. I bet you she would have, but she just got completely fired for just a political opinion she had, right? And then you got Pablo Hidalgo literally making fun of the most popular Star Wars YouTuber, and he's completely fine. It's so double standard, man. It's not even funny. It really pisses me off, this kind of stuff.
It's like there's no free speech now. It's just more like, oh, if you agree with me, that's fine. If you don't, then you're some kind of bigot. I don't like it.
All right, Tomba. So, tell me one thing you liked about the finale and one thing you really didn't like.
I enjoyed when the Mandalorians were fighting the Empire with the jetpacks and whatnot. I thought that was done really well.
They fly.
I did like that. I did enjoy that. Something I didn't like, when he crushed the Darksaber.
Yeah, that was pretty dumb. I know how he did. A lot of people don't know how he did it, like physically. I'm pretty sure he was wearing some kind of like mech suit that empowers his like strength, gives him like strength plus 10 or something, you know. So that's probably how he was able to do it physically, but I think narratively it's dumb because they made such a big deal out of the Darksaber for so long across multiple different stories, and now it's just gone. It's just, I mean, maybe they'll fix it or something. I doubt it though. It's just like gone like that. And I thought they were going to use it to, I mean, I honestly thought it was going to end, the whole show was going to end, not this season, but the whole show was going to end with Mandalore like using the Darksaber, riding the Mythosaur, and reuniting all the Mandalorian clans together, and he becomes the next Mandalore. Like, that would have been such a good ending. And then the whole thing with Grogu eventually becoming, like, you know, leader of the new Jedi Order and all that.
You know what it is? It's the Darksaber getting destroyed is symbolic of Disney destroying Star Wars.
Yeah, I guess maybe in a way, yeah, kind of.
What stood for a long time has perished under Disney's heel.
Because the Darksaber was first introduced in Clone Wars under George's writing and George's guidance, and it does represent like the last great thing that like George, like the last great lore that George and Dave and the rest of them when working on Clone Wars brought into life in Star Wars. It really does, yeah. And now it's just like crushed like it's nothing. So dumb. Yeah, so I didn't enjoy that either. The fight that they had at the end was pretty interesting. I mean, they definitely did have the whole dynamic where Bo came in and saved Din. You know, at one point she had to help him. So it's like I called that. A lot of people called that.
We knew it was going to happen. We knew it.
And overall, the whole thing was very just unsatisfying. I didn't get a sense of satisfaction from that ending. It was nowhere near as good as the end of season 1 or season 2. Not even close to season 2 at all. Like season 2 was amazing. It should have ended. The whole show, I think, should have just ended with 2. And if they wanted to continue Din's story, they should have did it with another show, maybe, or something like that down the line. But I think the whole show should have ended with 2, honestly.
I agree. It was definitely lackluster. It was definitely it was lacking something that the other seasons had. Like, the final episode is supposed to be the best episode, and it didn't bring it. There was a lot of cheesiness as well. There's the part where Grogu is getting chased by the Praetorian guards, and he's giggling. Like, why is he giggling in a life or death situation? It just takes me out of my immersion. I think Moff Gideon's armor looked goofy. Like, why has he got horns on his head? Like, is he some kind of like Darth Maul Clone Wars throwback because he had horns on his helmet? Like, again?
Yeah, I thought that was.
I don't get it. Also, the whole like clones. Like, you can't give the Force to clones. Like, if you don't have the Force, you don't have the Force. You can't give them the Force.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's a concept they did with Starkiller and Force Unleashed 2. Force Unleashed 2, yeah, they made clones. They tried to make clones of him.
They did, but this is the thing. Starkiller had the Force originally, so if you clone someone who has the Force, it makes sense for them to have the Force, I guess.
Well, you can't like the lore originally, and it should still be this way, is that you can't clone a Force sensitive because you can't really clone midichlorians properly. Like, you just can't do it.
I get that. I understand. But what makes more sense? A Force user being cloned and his clones having Force, or a non-Force user being cloned and his clones somehow having the Force?
Well, yeah, of course, the Force user.
You know, one of these.
I'm guessing he was trying to find some way to artificially. I'm sorry, everybody. Artificially inseminate the midichlorians into his clones. Or something. That's the only word I can think of. I'm sorry, everybody. But yeah, like just stick the midichlorians in the clones, and but you know what? That's not even the biggest thing that bothers me. You know what the biggest thing is?
What's that?
Why would he have a button that just kills all of them?
That's true. It's like a typical like Tom and Jerry villain, like, you know.
Like, what the hell? It's so goofy. I don't.
They dumbed it down. They dumbed it down for the kids. That's my only like thing I could think of. Is
I don't even think it's that. I think it's just bad writing. They just don't know what they're doing. We've said it a billion times, but it's just very lackluster overall season. And yeah, I might be done with Mandalorian. I don't even think I'm going to watch season 4 if and when it ever comes out.
Well, it's because like the end of a season, like the last episode of a season, is supposed to excite you about, like, you know, oh, so where's it going to go next? I found myself not caring where it goes next because this season was very like dull.
And they wrapped it up too.
Dull.
Like, they're at the little farm, the homestead at the end, and like Grogu's playing with the frog and all that stupid. And it's like, that was cute and all, like, oh, it's a happy ending for them both. That's nice. But at the same time, it's like, well, why do I care? And now I really don't care, like you said, what's going to happen next. So
in the scene right before that, he said about how he basically is going to become like a bounty hunter for the New Republic. And then it shows him just like kicking back on the homestead. Like, what? No continuity there. This doesn't make any sense to me.
And on top of it, last thing I want to mention is the mythosaur. What was the point of the whole mythosaur? What was the point?
I feel like they just showed it at the end to just be like, oh, he's still here, guys. Let's not forget about the mythosaur. Let's just, you know, they're just. It's like.
But again, it's like you think somebody's going to be riding it at the end of the season, right? That's what you thought. Like, like it's going to come back in a big way, and then whether it's Bo or Din, like somebody was going to be getting on the mythosaur. And what happened? Nothing. It's like you just see it again at the end. Was it just there for like the whole Bo to say, "Oh, I seen it," and that's like a sign or whatever, and that's it? It's just like, I don't know. It's just kind of disappointing. Like, it's like a tease. It's a big tease, dude.
All I know is that there is definitely going to be a Bo-Katan spin-off show, because Star Wars loves its female leads, and they love money.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's like what's his name, Temuera Morrison, the Boba Fett actor.
Right.
It's like he said when he said that the Mandalorian stole his show. Now it's happened to him.
Right.
Boba Fett stole his show. Are they going to do that in every show? Are they going to have a Luke Skywalker show in the Ahsoka series? Is this going to be Luke Skywalker stealing everything? Like, is no one entitled to their own show now? It's just dumb. It's just dumb. I don't like this.
Very dumb, guys. Very stupid. Me and Tomba rate it like 4 or 5 out of 10, maybe at best. It's 4. Yeah, 4 out of 10. That's being generous, I think. I
love season 1 and 2. So at the end of the day, if you can't bring what you've delivered previously, then come heavy or don't come all. That's what I say.
Well said, Tomba. Well said. All right, I think that's going to do it for now, everyone. As always, thanks for joining me, Box Bros, for this episode of the Rageous Cantina podcast. You can join in yourself on the conversation by leaving a comment down below. I really make it a point to reply to every comment on the podcast. And don't forget to please check out my Patreon if you'd like to support the podcast and the channel in general. Happy May the 4th, everyone, and may the Force be frickin' with you. I'll catch you next time.